They told you that words hold power and that repeating affirmations endlessly could change your life. But what if I tell you that the real transformation happens in silence, where the mind stops resisting and the soul begins to listen, where every unspoken thought carries weight beyond comprehension, and the universe itself seems to respond to the vibrations of quiet belief, rather than to the clamor of declared intentions? This is how it unfolds. A subtle energy moving beneath the surface of awareness, shaping the very fabric of opportunity without uttering a single syllable. This is where the illusion deepens, because most people never notice the invisible currents steering their fortunes. This is why it matters that you learn to feel without needing to verbalize. This is the turning point where internal alignment meets the magnetic forces of abundance. This is how freedom announces itself when resistance melts into receptive stillness. This is why circumstances lose power as the inner world becomes the dominant reality. This is how destiny is rewritten by the silent pulse of expectation. This is where clarity emerges, showing that action and intention are inseparable when directed from a calm, centered space. This is how opportunity whispers in patterns only felt, never spoken. This is the subtle revolution of the subconscious, shifting perception before external events conform. This is how energy precedes manifestation in ways the conscious mind can scarcely grasp. This is why patience becomes an active force, not idle waiting. This is how intuition ignites the first sparks of material change. This is the blueprint of unseen abundance, guiding you toward openings invisible to the ordinary eye. This is how silence communicates directly with the laws of creation. This is why the habitual mind begins to dissolve its doubts when confronted with energetic reality. This is the moment where unseen doors start to creak open, inviting the aligned seeker into possibilities once unimaginable. This is how the first ripple of financial shift is felt, subtle yet undeniable. This is where the journey truly begins, in the quiet surrender to forces beyond words. Can you imagine a world where every word you speak is stripped of its power, revealing the emptiness of affirmations repeated without feeling? This is how resistance quietly entrenches itself when the mind clings to spoken mantras while ignoring the heart. This is where illusions take root, because intention without alignment creates tension rather than flow. This is why it matters that you recognize the subtle sabotage of verbal repetition. This is the turning point where doubt surfaces, exposing the fragile structure of conventional affirmations. This is how freedom is delayed when belief is tied to sound rather than sensation. This is why circumstances remain stagnant as the subconscious hears the vibration of skepticism more than the declaration of hope. This is how destiny falters when words are used mechanically without energetic congruence. This is the moment where awareness must shift from utterance to sensation. This is how insight penetrates the layers of habitual thought, uncovering the unseen blocks to wealth. This is where clarity deepens, showing that the subconscious responds to feeling more than articulation. This is why action aligned with silent expectation trumps repeated verbal commands. This is how transformation begins when energy replaces speech. This is the subtle recognition that the mind often misinterprets words while the body knows truth instinctively. This is how perception changes as you begin to notice the gap between what is spoken and what is felt. This is the key to dissolving frustration, seeing that affirmations fail not for lack of effort but for lack of alignment. This is how the first cracks in limitation appear, revealing channels of abundance previously unseen. This is why patience with silent practice becomes revolutionary. This is how the seed of wordless transformation takes root, gently but powerfully. This is where the journey pivots, leaving behind the shallow repetition of words and stepping into the fertile ground of felt experience. This is how the real work begins, in quiet, unspoken resonance with unseen forces. Picture for a moment a method so subtle it requires no words, no chants, no scripts, yet shifts your financial reality with astonishing precision. This is how the wordless technique unfolds, engaging the subconscious directly through feeling. This is where the ordinary mind hesitates, because it expects language to act as a bridge. This is why it matters that you sense abundance before you name it. This is the turning point where silence becomes the conduit for transformation. This is how freedom expresses itself when intention is carried purely in vibration. This is why circumstances begin to bend when your internal state aligns with prosperity. This is how destiny is rewritten as the unspoken becomes the instrument of change. This is the moment when action and stillness merge into seamless flow. This is where clarity reveals that the essence of wealth is a state, not a statement. This is how insight whispers to the soul, bypassing the rational mind. This is why the subtle energy of anticipation carries more weight than words ever could. This is how perception shifts, allowing you to notice opportunities that previously went unseen. This is the pivot point where internal alignment catalyzes external results. This is how intuition guides financial decisions when mental chatter is silenced. This is the subtle activation of an unseen current that draws resources toward you effortlessly. This is why patience with the process becomes an active force rather than idle waiting. This is how the mind learns to feel abundance before the world manifests it. This is the revelation that the most potent change comes from internal resonance rather than vocal affirmation. This is where the first tangible shifts appear, gentle but undeniable. This is how the journey deepens, as silence becomes your most powerful tool for attracting wealth. Now consider this. Beneath the surface of conscious thought lies a vast, untapped realm where energy responds faster than words, and feeling dictates outcomes. This is how neural pathways realign when the mind is still, allowing the subconscious to register abundance without linguistic interference. This is where the illusion of control fades because the brain recognizes patterns of energy far more efficiently than patterns of sound. This is why it matters that your inner state is coherent before external action is attempted. This is the turning point when science meets intuition, revealing that vibration precedes manifestation. This is how freedom is experienced as neurons fire in harmony with expectation rather than doubt. This is why circumstances shift once the body resonates with wealth instead of reacting to repetition. This is how destiny is rewritten through the silent, magnetic influence of aligned thought. This is the moment when cognitive resistance dissolves under the influence of consistent, energetic practice. This is where clarity emerges, showing that intention, backed by feeling, overrides purely verbal insistence. This is how insight flows as the subconscious begins to orchestrate unseen opportunities. This is why patience in silent practice is scientifically potent, because it nurtures neural reprogramming. This is how perception expands to notice synchronicities and subtle cues that words often obscure. This is the turning point where rational understanding yields to experiential knowledge. This is how intuition gains strength, guiding choices without verbal deliberation. This is why alignment becomes the vehicle for rapid transformation rather than conscious effort alone. This is how the body, mind, and energy field synchronize to accelerate abundance. This is the revelation that science validates what ancient wisdom always suggested. Feeling precedes form. This is how subtle shifts compound into tangible financial breakthroughs. This is where the silent currents of energy begin to shape reality, moving you closer to unseen opportunities that once seemed impossible. Suppose you discover a person who, after years of struggling with repeated affirmations, experiences a sudden financial breakthrough simply by sitting in silence and feeling the reality of abundance. This is how the first shift manifests, subtle yet undeniable, as opportunities begin to present themselves without effort. This is where disbelief begins to crumble, because the mind witnesses results that words alone could never generate. This is why it matters that the internal state is cultivated before seeking external proof. This is the turning point where the story moves from theory into lived experience. This is how freedom announces itself when the flow of wealth arrives unexpectedly. This is why circumstances bend to align with the vibration of the individual's focused feeling. This is how destiny is rewritten when unseen energies converge in perfect timing. This is the moment when hesitation fades, replaced by trust in the unseen currents. This is where clarity sharpens, revealing that financial abundance was responding to energy long before the transaction appeared. This is how insight deepens as the individual begins to recognize patterns of synchronicity guiding decisions. This is why patience and quiet expectation become a superpower. This is how perception expands to notice subtle cues and nudges previously ignored. This is the turning point where internal resonance triggers tangible changes in the world. This is how intuition communicates opportunities directly to awareness. This is why alignment becomes more valuable than frantic effort or repeated mantras. This is how small shifts compound, creating a cascade of positive financial events. This is the revelation that transformation is rooted in experience rather than declaration. This is how silent practice proves more powerful than any spoken affirmation. This is where the journey of wordless abundance solidifies, leaving the seeker in awe of results that emerged without a single uttered command. Envision a world where every thought, every feeling, radiates a vibration that quietly shapes reality long before actions take form. This is how vibrations become the invisible language of abundance, resonating through the subconscious in ways words can never capture. This is where the ordinary mind fails to notice that energy, not expression, dictates opportunity. This is why it matters that you tune your internal state to the frequency of prosperity. This is the turning point when subtle shifts in feeling ripple outward, influencing circumstances with precision. This is how freedom asserts itself as resistance melts under coherent energy. This is why circumstances begin to bend when your inner vibration matches the rhythm of wealth. This is how destiny is rewritten through the consistent alignment of feeling. This is the moment when intention and sensation converge, creating a magnetic field that draws resources effortlessly. This is where clarity emerges, showing that the quality of inner resonance determines external outcomes. This is how insight deepens as you sense opportunities before they manifest. This is why patience becomes active alignment, not idle waiting. This is how perception expands to detect patterns and possibilities invisible to the unaligned mind. This is the turning point where intuition begins to guide decisions with uncanny accuracy. This is how energy supersedes words, activating doors previously closed. This is why alignment is more potent than repeated affirmations. This is how small adjustments in vibration compound, generating substantial financial shifts over time. This is the revelation that abundance responds directly to felt experience. This is how the body, mind, and energy field synchronize to accelerate wealth. This is where the wordless technique proves its power, making silent alignment the cornerstone of financial transformation. Think of the moment when your mind can paint the exact life you desire, not with words but with vivid, immersive imagery that your subconscious accepts as reality. This is how visualization becomes a silent blueprint for financial transformation. This is where ordinary imagination elevates into a tool for tangible manifestation. This is why it matters that every detail you feel internally is charged with emotion and belief. This is the turning point when seeing internally surpasses the need for external evidence. This is how freedom expresses itself as your mind and energy align with abundance effortlessly. This is why circumstances begin to respond when your internal scenes are saturated with clarity and excitement. This is how destiny is rewritten as the mind rehearses success without uttering a single word. This is the moment when hesitation fades, replaced by immersive awareness of possibility. This is where clarity emerges, showing that the subconscious reacts more powerfully to experience than to statements. This is how insight deepens, allowing you to feel the energy of opportunities before they materialize. This is why patience with silent visualization yields exponential results. This is how perception expands, noticing opportunities and synchronicities previously invisible. This is the turning point where visualization ignites action, aligned with unseen currents. This is how intuition begins guiding decisions seamlessly, bypassing doubt and fear. This is why alignment matters more than effort, as energy compounds in unseen but measurable ways. This is how repeated, wordless visualization lays the foundation for ongoing financial shifts. This is the revelation that the brain and subconscious respond to experience, not repetition. This is how the silent rehearsal of abundance accelerates tangible outcomes. This is where the journey into effortless wealth deepens, proving that seeing internally is the bridge to having externally. Ask yourself what happens when your emotions and desires are perfectly in sync, resonating with the frequency of abundance without needing a single word to enforce it. This is how emotional alignment transforms ordinary thoughts into powerful energetic signals. This is where the subtle shift from wanting to feeling amplifies the magnetism of wealth. This is why it matters that you cultivate joy, gratitude, and excitement internally before expecting external proof. This is the turning point when the heart becomes the engine driving financial manifestation. This is how freedom asserts itself as resistance dissolves in the warmth of aligned emotion. This is why circumstances start responding to the internal tone rather than external attempts. This is how destiny is rewritten through the consistent conscious cultivation of prosperous feeling. This is the moment when the mind and body merge into one resonant field, creating a magnetic pull toward opportunities. This is where clarity sharpens, revealing that alignment in feeling eclipses verbal repetition in effectiveness. This is how insight deepens, allowing subtle cues and synchronicities to guide decision-making. This is why patience in emotional practice accelerates transformation. This is how perception expands, enabling the recognition of patterns that signal unseen openings. This is the turning point where intuition and feeling converge into actionable guidance. This is how energy, unbound by words, orchestrates outcomes with precision. This is why alignment is more potent than effort or affirmation. This is how small, consistent emotional adjustments create compounding financial shifts. This is the revelation that the subconscious responds primarily to feeling rather than narrative. This is how the silent cultivation of emotion becomes a powerhouse for abundance. This is where the journey toward effortless financial flow deepens, proving that emotional resonance is the foundation of lasting wealth. Consider the possibility that a simple, daily practice could rewire your subconscious and magnetize wealth without speaking a single word. This is how consistency becomes the hidden engine of financial transformation. This is where quiet routines accumulate power, shaping reality in ways unnoticed by the conscious mind. This is why it matters that you commit to daily alignment, feeling abundance before action. This is the turning point when repetition of energy outweighs repetition of language. This is how freedom grows as disciplined, wordless attention reshapes neural pathways. This is why circumstances begin to respond predictably once the subconscious recognizes habitual alignment. This is how destiny is rewritten through the cumulative effect of small intentional moments. This is the moment when the mind stops interfering, allowing the natural flow of opportunities. This is where clarity deepens, showing that the quality of your daily focus sets the trajectory of financial results. This is how insight sharpens, as you notice the subtle, compounding effects of sustained practice. This is why patience becomes strategic, as unseen energy compounds over time. This is how perception opens to recognize doors and coincidences that words could never generate. This is the turning point where intuition begins directing the minutiae of daily life. This is how energy, harnessed consistently, orchestrates circumstances in alignment with intention. This is why alignment through daily practice is exponentially more powerful than sporadic effort. This is how the mind, body, and energy fields synchronize to accelerate the manifestation of wealth. This is the revelation that the smallest, disciplined acts of feeling create massive, cascading shifts. This is how silent repetition becomes a conduit for profound financial change. This is where the journey evolves, proving that daily, wordless practice is the bedrock of effortless abundance. Now consider this. What if the difference between speaking words and silently feeling is the very key to unlocking effortless abundance? This is how the wordless technique diverges from traditional affirmations, focusing on vibration rather than verbal repetition. This is where conventional thinking falters, expecting external statements to shift the inner world. This is why it matters that you cultivate internal resonance before relying on spoken phrases. This is the turning point when silent experience becomes the true language of transformation. This is how freedom asserts itself as internal alignment outpaces vocal insistence. This is why circumstances begin to shift once the subconscious is saturated with felt abundance. This is how destiny is rewritten when energy replaces articulation as the primary tool of manifestation. This is the moment when the difference becomes tangible. Opportunities flowing without effort. This is where clarity emerges, revealing that the heart responds to sensation while the mind clings to words. This is how insight deepens, recognizing that affirmations without feeling are often empty. This is why patience with internal alignment generates results far faster than repeated verbal commands. This is how perception expands to notice opportunities previously obscured by over-reliance on language. This is the turning point where intuition and silent feeling guide practical decisions. This is how energy, unspoken and unforced, orchestrates outcomes with precision. This is why alignment is the secret ingredient that makes wordless practice superior to affirmation. This is how subtle, repeated inner experiences compound into measurable financial shifts. This is the revelation that internal vibration is the mechanism through which abundance flows. This is how silent alignment eclipses external effort, creating effortless wealth. This is where the journey clarifies that words may guide, but feeling transforms, proving the power of the wordless technique. Ask yourself what happens when the beliefs that once confined your financial reality begin to dissolve silently. This is how limiting thoughts are replaced by subtle, wordless vibrations of possibility. This is where the mind finally recognizes that scarcity was never real, only reinforced through repetition and doubt. This is why it matters that you confront these internal barriers with quiet awareness rather than verbal confrontation. This is the turning point when old stories lose their grip as you feel abundance internally. This is how freedom emerges when the energy of belief supersedes the need for proof. This is why circumstances start to shift as your subconscious no longer anchors to limitation. This is how destiny is rewritten through the continuous replacement of scarcity with aligned expectation. This is the moment when hesitation fades, replaced by trust in unseen forces. This is where clarity deepens, revealing that beliefs are simply patterns of energy waiting to be transformed. This is how insight arises, allowing you to notice moments when scarcity thoughts attempt to creep back. This is why patience and gentle observation accelerate the dismantling of limiting frameworks. This is how perception expands, recognizing that every feeling of lack is a signal to realign. This is the turning point where intuition begins guiding the conscious mind to act from empowerment rather than fear. This is how energy, freed from limitation, orchestrates opportunities and synchronicities with precision. This is why alignment matters more than effort, as the subconscious responds faster to vibration than to intention alone. This is how subtle shifts in belief compound, generating profound financial changes over time. This is the revelation that the subconscious is the gateway through which abundance flows. This is how silent practice dismantles resistance more efficiently than spoken affirmation. This is where the journey evolves, proving that releasing limiting beliefs silently is essential for lasting prosperity. Picture, for a moment, the subtle signs that start appearing when your inner vibration aligns with abundance. This is how the universe communicates in whispers rather than shouts, guiding you toward opportunities previously unseen. This is where ordinary events take on extraordinary significance, revealing hidden patterns of prosperity. This is why it matters to remain attentive to these quiet signals rather than dismissing them as coincidence. This is the turning point when intuition recognizes the gentle nudges that point toward financial breakthroughs. This is how freedom manifests as awareness sharpens and synchronicities multiply. This is why circumstances begin to respond almost magically when you act in harmony with subtle cues. This is how destiny is rewritten as you start to follow the breadcrumbs of unseen guidance. This is the moment when hesitation dissipates, replaced by a confident sense of alignment. This is where clarity emerges, showing that every small sign is a reflection of your internal state. This is how insight deepens, allowing you to anticipate opportunities before they arrive. This is why patience becomes active, as subtle patterns unfold over time in perfect timing. This is how perception expands, noticing coincidences and prompts that others overlook. This is the turning point where intuition and observation converge, directing action without conscious effort. This is how energy orchestrates events in response to your vibrational frequency. This is why alignment with these signals is more impactful than any spoken affirmation. This is how small attentions compound into tangible financial shifts. This is the revelation that abundance often arrives in imperceptible increments before the obvious manifestation. This is how silent awareness of subtle signs accelerates opportunity. This is where the journey continues, proving that paying attention to the quiet language of the universe is essential for effortless financial flow. Can you imagine a practice where the feeling of abundance becomes a permanent part of your consciousness, anchoring itself so deeply that it directs every thought and decision effortlessly? This is how the wordless technique transforms fleeting emotion into a stable, magnetic state. This is where ordinary experiences are infused with the energy of prosperity. This is why it matters that you learn to anchor these feelings physically and mentally, creating a foundation that supports ongoing wealth. This is the turning point when internal alignment becomes habitual rather than occasional. This is how freedom asserts itself as your nervous system harmonizes with abundance. This is why circumstances begin to reflect the energy you maintain consistently. This is how destiny is rewritten as anchored feelings influence every choice without conscious effort. This is the moment when hesitation disappears, replaced by the intuitive certainty of abundance. This is where clarity sharpens, showing that the anchored feeling is more powerful than any external action. This is how insight deepens as you recognize opportunities through resonance rather than observation alone. This is why patience becomes effortless, because the energy itself guides timing and action. This is how perception expands, noticing moments where alignment can be reinforced and deepened. This is the turning point where intuition seamlessly directs behavior in ways that promote prosperity. This is how energy, stabilized through anchoring, orchestrates circumstances in perfect harmony. This is why consistent internal feeling outweighs sporadic effort or verbal affirmations. This is how subtle repetition compounds, generating accelerated financial shifts. This is the revelation that the subconscious retains anchored emotion more effectively than repeated mantras. This is how the silent cultivation of feeling becomes a powerful tool for lasting wealth. This is where the journey continues, proving that anchoring abundance internally is essential for effortless financial manifestation. Envision a world where ordinary people experience extraordinary financial shifts simply by practicing the wordless technique. This is how real-life stories validate the silent power of aligned feeling. This is where skeptics witness results that defy logic, reinforcing the potency of internal resonance. This is why it matters to study examples of those who moved from scarcity to effortless abundance. This is the turning point when theory transforms into observable reality. This is how freedom manifests as individuals report unexpected opportunities flowing into their lives. This is why circumstances bend naturally when their internal state consistently radiates prosperity. This is how destiny is rewritten as small, silent practices produce measurable impact. This is the moment when hesitation fades, replaced by belief in the unseen currents guiding results. This is where clarity emerges, showing that the mechanics of wealth are often invisible yet precise. This is how insight deepens, revealing patterns of opportunity recognized only by aligned perception. This is why patience is rewarded as cumulative, wordless practice generates tangible outcomes. This is how perception expands to notice the subtle synchronicities that others overlook. This is the turning point where intuition begins directing actions that yield results effortlessly. This is how energy, applied consistently, orchestrates real-life financial breakthroughs. This is why alignment is more potent than effort or repetition of affirmations. This is how small, persistent internal shifts compound, producing extraordinary life changes. This is the revelation that the silent cultivation of alignment precedes external manifestation. This is how real people confirm that feeling internally is the cornerstone of financial success. This is where the journey inspires viewers, proving that the wordless technique works in practice, not just theory. Think of the moment when doubt surfaces, and the mind questions whether a wordless technique could truly alter financial reality. This is how skepticism tests your commitment and clarity of intention. This is where internal resistance often masquerades as rationality. This is why it matters to notice doubt without allowing it to derail your practice. This is the turning point when observing skepticism transforms it from obstacle to guide. This is how freedom asserts itself as curiosity replaces judgment. This is why circumstances begin to align when the subconscious senses unwavering focus despite external uncertainty. This is how destiny is rewritten as consistent feeling outweighs fleeting disbelief. This is the moment when hesitation dissolves, replaced by quiet experimentation and trust. This is where clarity emerges, revealing that belief is built through experience rather than argument. This is how insight deepens as subtle results reinforce confidence in the wordless method. This is why patience becomes empowering, allowing time for unseen shifts to manifest. This is how perception expands, noticing patterns of opportunity that the skeptical mind might otherwise miss. This is the turning point where intuition strengthens, guiding action beyond conscious doubt. This is how energy, maintained consistently, overcomes the resistance of disbelief. This is why alignment and silent practice are more effective than debating or rationalizing results. This is how subtle, repeated experience compounds into undeniable transformation. This is the revelation that skepticism is only a stepping stone toward internal mastery. This is how continued practice proves results beyond argument. This is where the journey advances, showing that overcoming doubt is itself a key part of effortless financial flow. Now consider this. The silent cultivation of abundance does not replace action, but rather transforms how you act. This is how wordless alignment amplifies every decision and step you take. This is where internal resonance meets external execution, creating effortless flow. This is why it matters that you integrate aligned action without forcing results. This is the turning point when inspired moves replace reactive or habitual behavior. This is how freedom asserts itself as intuition guides each choice with clarity and precision. This is why circumstances begin to align as actions are synchronized with unseen currents. This is how destiny is rewritten as internal coherence directs external manifestation. This is the moment when hesitation disappears, replaced by confident, inspired action. This is where clarity deepens, showing that aligned behavior magnifies the power of silent practice. This is how insight sharpens as opportunities naturally present themselves in response to alignment. This is why patience and trust are essential, allowing actions to follow the rhythm of abundance. This is how perception expands to notice moments where decisive action yields exponential results. This is the turning point where intuition leads seamlessly, eliminating uncertainty or second-guessing. This is how energy, anchored internally, orchestrates practical steps that generate tangible financial change. This is why alignment and action together outperform effort without feeling. This is how small, inspired actions compound, producing dramatic and lasting shifts. This is the revelation that abundance flows most powerfully when action is guided by internal resonance. This is how the journey continues, proving that silent alignment and aligned action create the foundation for effortless wealth. This is where mastery emerges, integrating inner vibrational power with outward movement to manifest prosperity. Picture for a moment how a single shift in your internal vibration can create ripples that extend far beyond your personal finances. This is how the energy of abundance influences relationships, opportunities, and the environment around you. This is where silent alignment generates effects that are felt rather than spoken. This is why it matters that your inner state becomes a consistent source of positive influence. This is the turning point when subtle shifts begin to cascade into unexpected areas of life. This is how freedom expresses itself as the impact of your alignment radiates outward. This is why circumstances start responding not just to you, but to the field of energy you emit. This is how destiny is rewritten as your ripple effects multiply through connections and choices. This is the moment when hesitation and doubt fade, replaced by awareness of the broader consequences of alignment. This is where clarity emerges, showing that internal shifts have external echoes far beyond initial expectations. This is how insight deepens as you notice small changes in people, situations, and opportunities responding to your vibration. This is why patience is crucial, because the ripple effect compounds subtly before becoming obvious. This is how perception expands to recognize the extended influence of your energetic alignment. This is the turning point where intuition senses how each decision affects the wider web of abundance. This is how energy orchestrates subtle shifts across multiple layers of reality. This is why alignment becomes a multiplier, increasing impact far beyond what words or isolated actions could achieve. This is how small internal shifts compound into broad systemic changes that reshape outcomes. This is the revelation that true abundance influences not only your life, but the lives of those around you. This is how silent, intentional alignment becomes a force of transformation in the world. This is where the journey evolves, proving that the ripple effect of wordless practice is both profound and far-reaching. Suppose you discover subtle techniques that elevate the wordless practice into a higher, more precise form. This is how advanced methods expand your capacity to align with abundance effortlessly. This is where breathing, posture, and sensory focus become instruments of financial manifestation. This is why it matters to refine practice beyond visualization and emotion, integrating full-body awareness. This is the turning point when meditation, energy focus, and silent repetition converge to create amplified results. This is how freedom asserts itself as the practitioner learns to tune energy with exacting precision. This is why circumstances respond faster and more powerfully when advanced alignment techniques are employed. This is how destiny is rewritten as mastery of subtle practices accelerates manifestation. This is the moment when hesitation fades, replaced by deliberate, elevated energetic focus. This is where clarity emerges, showing that micro-adjustments in vibration can unlock major opportunities. This is how insight deepens as the practitioner senses the direct impact of nuanced internal alignment. This is why patience is transformed into a skillful, conscious orchestration of energy. This is how perception expands to notice the faintest signals that indicate energetic resonance with wealth. This is the turning point where intuition operates with near-perfect accuracy, directing action and attention seamlessly. This is how energy, refined through advanced practices, orchestrates profound and rapid financial shifts. This is why alignment at this level transcends words, affirmations, or ordinary effort. This is how small, deliberate refinements compound into extraordinary outcomes. This is the revelation that mastery emerges not from speaking but from feeling and precise attention. This is how the journey deepens, proving that advanced wordless practices unlock a higher tier of abundance. This is where the practitioner realizes that subtlety, precision, and silence together are the keys to effortless wealth. Think of the moment when well-meaning practitioners stumble, misunderstanding the subtle art of the wordless technique. This is how forcing feelings or overthinking sabotages the natural flow of abundance. This is where impatience masks itself as effort, creating tension instead of alignment. This is why it matters to recognize common pitfalls early in the practice. This is the turning point when awareness of error allows course correction without frustration. This is how freedom is preserved when mistakes are seen as lessons rather than failures. This is why circumstances may appear stagnant until misaligned habits are corrected. This is how destiny is rewritten once habitual errors are replaced with conscious, subtle practice. This is the moment when hesitation and self-doubt surface, signaling a need to return to core alignment. This is where clarity emerges, showing that understanding energy and vibration is more important than repeating actions mechanically. This is how insight deepens as you notice the difference between forced effort and effortless resonance. This is why patience is crucial, allowing alignment to recalibrate naturally over time. This is how perception expands to detect when internal feelings are authentic versus contrived. This is the turning point where intuition alerts you to subtle misalignments. This is how energy flows most powerfully when errors are corrected silently and immediately. This is why alignment and feeling must be prioritized over words or overthinking. This is how small corrections compound into consistent, accelerated financial results. This is the revelation that mastery is maintained through attentive, error-aware practice. This is how the journey continues, proving that avoiding common mistakes is as important as cultivating alignment. This is where the practitioner refines technique, ensuring sustainable, effortless abundance. Envision a world where you take everything you've learned and step into experimentation, allowing the wordless technique to guide your financial reality firsthand. This is how personal experience becomes the ultimate teacher, revealing truths beyond theory. This is where courage meets curiosity, as silent practice trams doubt into insight. This is why it matters to act, not just understand, feeling the energy of abundance daily. This is the turning point when experimentation shifts from tentative to deliberate, creating measurable impact. This is how freedom asserts itself as you observe results without needing validation. This is why circumstances begin to respond more rapidly when you engage fully in aligned practice. This is how destiny is rewritten as each experiment compounds into tangible shifts. This is the moment when hesitation vanishes, replaced by empowered action and observation. This is where clarity emerges, showing that the most profound understanding comes from lived experience. This is how insight deepens as you notice subtleties that confirm the silent technique's efficacy. This is why patience is reinforced, allowing energy to organize outcomes naturally. This is how perception expands, detecting alignment opportunities that words could never reveal. This is the turning point where intuition leads boldly, guiding each step with confidence. This is how energy, when consciously experimented with, accelerates financial flow. This is why alignment and curiosity together outpace mechanical repetition. This is how small, consistent experiments compound, generating extraordinary results over time. This is the revelation that mastery belongs to those willing to explore quietly. This is how the journey culminates, proving that wordless practice is the ultimate gateway to effortless wealth. This is where the story closes, yet the real adventure begins as you step into your own silent power, ready to feel, align, and manifest financial freedom without uttering a single word.